Tonight on Currents News, the most important aspect of life in the Big Apple is getting ready to come back.
We're just 1 week away from masses resuming here in the Diocese of Brooklyn. I'm Emily Druby, and everyone is getting ready for the big day.
A big Supreme Court decision on abortion is expected any day now. We'll tell you what's at stake. The statue of an American saint is torn down on the West Coast. New York City's Christopher Columbus statue could be next on the chopping block. An Italian-American leader is here to talk about that.
Bishop Nicholas DiMarzio delivering a message of love to the priests of the Brooklyn Diocese at the annual Chrism Mass. I'm Jessica Easthope, and that's ahead.
Plus, could a second virus wave be on the way? As the numbers go up, the White House is preparing. The news starts right now.
Going to feel like we're our first Holy Communion.
The wait to receive the Eucharist has seemed endless. Now it's almost over. Good evening, I'm Christine Persichetti. Daily Masses in the Diocese of Brooklyn will be celebrated again exactly 1 week from today. Priests are getting ready before welcoming you into the pews, and parishioners are eager to receive the body of Christ. Currents News' Emily Druby has the story from Bell Harbor, Queens.
A daily tradition, Anne Marie McNerney says the Rosary at St. Francis de Sales Church, a way to strengthen her faith while not being able to attend Mass. But on Monday, June 29th, that will change.
I can't wait.
That's when churches in the Diocese of Brooklyn can reopen for weekday Mass. Weekend Mass will start that Saturday with the Vigil Mass on July 4th. McNerney, who has been a parishioner of the Bell Harbor Queens Church for 55 years, was emotional as she thought of receiving communion for the first time since March.
It's going to feel like we're our first Holy Communion, really. It will be.
Her pastor, Father William Sweeney, is excited to welcome back his flock, but also a little nervous.
Being back in the church will be good. We'll be interested to see how many people come. A lot of our senior citizens have already said they're going to wait a little bit.
The diocese has put strict safety measures into place, including limiting church capacity to 25% and requiring masks. In Coney Island, the Shrine Church of Our Lady of Solace has made their own branded masks, a way to get their people ready for Mass, but also reinforce their church community.
You go outside wearing a mask and you belong to Our Lady of Solace. This is your parish. This is your family.
They already sold 50. Parishioners can buy them for $6 at the rectory. They cost almost that much to make.
Every other day, it seems, they ask me, when are you opening again? So I'm happy to finally have an answer.
Father James Rodriguez is the administrator of St. Rose of Lima Church in Rockaway Beach, Queens. He says his parishioners are excited to come back. However, even though they're also following strict safety restrictions, some are still fearful. So for now, they will continue to also live stream.
For the people who can't come or the people who would rather not come, people who choose to exercise that type of caution.
Every church is different, so it's important people check with their parish about their Mass schedule and safety precautions.
The churches on Monday will be full of Purell bottles, masks, pew separators, but they'll also be full of love, hope, and faith. In Bell Harbor, Queens, Emily Druby, Currents News.
While the Brooklyn Diocese churches get ready for Mass, today is when the city's second phase of lifting restrictions kicks in. Restaurants are allowed to offer outdoor dining. Barber shops and salons are back. Retail stores can have customers again, and offices are allowed to reopen. But in all of the indoor places, only 50% of normal capacity is permitted, and the social distancing and face covering rules apply. The Supreme Court is expected to rule soon on a landmark abortion case. It could limit a woman's access to abortion. This after two recent rulings by the conservative-leaning court went against conservative interests. Pro-life advocates have rallied many times for the rights of the unborn. They're now keeping a close watch on the Supreme Court as justices get ready to issue a major ruling on abortion. The case centers on a Louisiana state law that requires doctors who perform abortions to have admitting privileges at area hospitals. This anticipated ruling comes after two recent decisions by the conservative-leaning court, which many say were setbacks for the Trump administration. The first last Monday, when the High Court ruled that the 1964 Civil Rights Act protects gay, lesbian, and transgender employees from discrimination based on sex. Justice Neil Gorsuch, who President Trump appointed, wrote the majority opinion. Days later, the Supreme Court decided the Trump administration's action to kill DACA didn't follow the rules. Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, or DACA, is a program that allows those who were brought to the U.S. as children to remain here without fear of deportation. There are about 700,000 so-called dreamers who are protected by it. Both decisions stunned President Trump, who tweeted last week, "These horrible and politically charged decisions coming out of the Supreme Court are shotgun blasts into the face of people that are proud to call themselves Republicans or conservatives. We need more justices, or we will lose our Second Amendment and everything else. Vote Trump 2020. The president also tweeted that he will be releasing a new list of conservative Supreme Court justice nominees by September 1st. New York City cops are stepping up patrols tonight after a violent weekend of gun violence. There was a shooting every hour in the Big Apple on Saturday and more gunplay on Sunday. An NYPD chief is blaming the skyrocketing totals on court closures due to the coronavirus emergency. Michael LaPetri is saying more than 1,000 people who were already indicted on gun possession charges are out on the streets. It was the first weekend since the NYPD disbanded undercover anti-crime units. Overall, for the week, there were 55 shootings in the city compared to 12 during the same period a year ago. In Chicago, more than 100 people were shot and at least 13 killed over the Father's Day weekend. One of the murder victims was a toddler. The city's mayor, Lori Lightfoot, called that killing an unconscionable act of cowardice. The shooting on the west side of Chicago took the life of a 3-year-old boy riding in an SUV.
Shut this west side down until we find out who discharged that weapon and took the life of this baby. We're going to be asking this community to step up with any type of information.
Community leaders are offering a $2,500 reward for information about the 3-year-old's murder. So far, there have been no arrests. 3 more children were shot to death in other incidents this weekend. In San Francisco, the statue of a Catholic saint was destroyed. The monument to missionary Saint Junipero Serra was toppled by a group of about 100 people in Golden Gate Park. He founded 9 Catholic missions in California. Critics have called the saint a symbol of colonialism. Defenders say Serra was a champion of the human rights of Native people. Pope Francis canonized him while visiting the U.S. in 2015. San Francisco Archbishop Salvatore Cordileone is condemning the destruction of the Serra statue. He's released a statement that says, "What is happening to our society? A renewed national movement to heal memories and correct the injustices of racism and police brutality in our country has been hijacked by some into a movement of violence, looting, and vandalism. The memorialization of historic figures merits an honest and fair discussion as to how and to whom such honor should be given. But here, there was not rational discussion. It was mob rule, a troubling phenomenon that seems to be repeating itself throughout the country." Stay with us. Andre Dimino will be here. He's from the Italian-American One Voice Coalition, and we'll look at the effort to kick Christopher Columbus out of Columbus Circle. That's still ahead in this newscast. Bishop Nicholas DiMarzio sending out a strong message of love and hope at this year's Chrism Mass. The liturgy traditionally takes place on Holy Thursday, but was postponed due to the COVID-19 crisis. The Mass is also the time priests of the Diocese of Brooklyn renew their commitments to God. Currents News' Jessica Easthope has the story from Brooklyn's Prospect Heights.
The vows of priests in the Brooklyn Diocese boomed throughout the co-cathedral of St. Joseph during the annual Chrism Mass.
It is truly right and just.
The church that normally fits nearly 1,500 had only about 20 priests inside, sitting apart, affirming "I am" to promises read by Bishop Nicholas DiMarzio.
All the angels and saints.
The bishop's homily message to the priests of the diocese who have suffered a great loss during the pandemic was love.
What exchange can we give for this gift of love that we have received except love itself? itself, the love we have received by the gift of our priesthood.
During the Chrism Mass, the bishop consecrates sacred oils to be used during the sacraments. The Mass is usually held on Holy Thursday morning, but was postponed due to the pandemic until June 19th, the Feast of the Sacred Heart, and Juneteenth, a holiday that has taken on new meaning in the wake of national unrest over racism in the United States.
We still have not conquered that, and we never will. We have the remnants of original sin, and no one is perfect. No age, no era is perfect. I think we've made a lot of progress in our country, but there's still more to go.
I am the Alpha and the Omega, says the Lord God.
Father Alonzo Cox, the pastor of St. Martin de Porres in Bedford-Stuyvesant, said even during these troubling times, God's love comes into focus.
As an African-American priest, as a priest of the Diocese of Brooklyn, the message of love is what we need to hear now more than ever. You know, we're all brothers and sisters united in the love and mercy of Jesus. You know, we're all created in the image and likeness of God.
We are entering a new phase, I think, in the life of the church.
During his homily, Bishop DiMarzio highlighted a silver lining of the pandemic.
I don't think people have prayed more at home than during this time. The spirit of prayer and devotion entered into each home in a different way,
marking what could be a new beginning for Catholics in the Brooklyn Diocese. In Prospect Heights, Jessica Easthope, Currents News.
For parishioners not yet ready to go back to church, live masses are being televised right here on Net TV. The liturgies are on the air Sunday and throughout the week. The full schedule is listed at netny.tv. Benedict XVI is back at the Vatican tonight. The Pope Emeritus made a surprise trip to Germany last Thursday to spend time with his brother, 96-year-old Monsignor Georg Ratzinger, who is very sick. It's the first time Benedict left the Vatican in 7 years. In the UK, a memorial is held for victims of a terror attack over the weekend.
Our prayers are very much with the people who have died.
6 people in a Reading, England park were stabbed by a man over the weekend. 3 of them, including one American, were killed. He attended Catholic schools in Philadelphia. A suspect is in custody. USA Today is reporting he's thought to be a Libyan national who was on a terror watch list over concerns he may have tried to join a terror group overseas. There's a lot more news headed your way. Columbus controversy. Calls are growing louder to remove statues of the Italian explorer, but at least one group is saying not so fast. The spokesman of that group is with us. Plus, COVID clusters will tell you where infection rates are on the rise. And a worried White House. They're preparing for a second wave of the virus. Stay with us.
Now you can help us put your faith in the news. The next time you capture a newsworthy event, send us your pictures or video. It's easy. Go to netny.tv/send us, and you may see your submission on Currents News.
Statues that stood for years are crashing down around America. Next to be removed is Theodore Roosevelt's statue outside New York City's Museum of Natural History. Could Columbus Circle be next? Here to talk with us is Andre Dimino from the Italian American One Voice Coalition. And Andre, first tell me, how do you feel when you see the videos of these Christopher Columbus statues being torn down and vandalized?
It's just horrible and heart-wrenching, actually, to see these things occurring across the country.
Now, according to History.com, Columbus kept a journal, which you probably know about. He gave to Spain's Queen Isabella, in which he wrote about the locals he encountered. And he said, quote, "They would make fine servants. With 50 men, we could subjugate them all and make them do whatever we want." He even offered her some 500 slaves, which she rejected. How do you respond to people who say Christopher Columbus was an oppressor, enslaved people, and committed violent acts and even genocide against indigenous people?
Well, people can have their own opinions, but they can't have their own facts. And in fact, a lot of these facts have been disputed by reputable sources and authorities in the area. In fact, even some indigenous people who've written books correcting these facts are there to say that, you know, some of these words are incorrect. For example, the one that you cited, the word servants, was actually for servants of God at the time. It was not the word that we use for servants now. So there's a lot of misinterpretation, and unfortunately they twisted the facts to attack Columbus and Western culture.
Wow. Why do Italians revere Christopher Columbus so much? Why not other important and less controversial Italians like St. Thomas Aquinas, Galileo? You can name so many of them.
Well, throughout history, Italian Americans were subjected to significant discrimination, and even the largest lynching in America was of Italian Americans. And as part of the atonement or apology for that, President Harrison, Benjamin Harrison, as well as Roosevelt, used Columbus and Columbus statues as a way to apologize for that discrimination and hate that was towards Italian Americans. So it's an important symbol for generations of Italian Americans regarding the fight to survive here in America.
You mentioned lynchings, and many people might be taken aback when you use that word talking about Italians because, you know, as we all know, it's African Americans who probably suffered more lynchings than anyone else.
Of course, there's no comparison with African Americans, but we can't hide the fact that Italian Americans were also lynched. Again, the largest lynching in America was in New Orleans in 1891, and it was just last year that the mayor of New Orleans apologized to the Italian American community for that lynching.
All right, New Jersey Governor Phil Murphy is now considering removing Columbus statues across the state. How do you plan to fight that?
Well, we've certainly written to him. We've got petitions and so forth. And, in New Jersey, with such a high population of Italian Americans, 1 out of 6 residents of New Jersey are traced back to their Italian heritage. And really, of all states, this is not the state to do that in. And we would think that he should listen to Governor Cuomo, who said that he's going to preserve that iconic statue that's in the center of Columbus Circle, which, by the way, was donated by the nickels and dimes of Italian Americans at the time.
When statues of Columbus and others are vandalized, what consequences do you think the protesters should face?
Well, let's face it, it is a criminal act. Whether it's Columbus or all the other statues, it's a criminal, violent act, and they should be persecuted to the fullest extent of the law. Unfortunately, nowadays, that doesn't seem to occur, but I think that if they would start doing that, much of this will stop. As you've seen, it hasn't stopped at Columbus. They're going after all kinds of statues across the country.
So what does Christopher Columbus mean to you?
Well, for me personally, I actually have a personal story because I'm a first-generation Italian American. My parents both came here from Italy. My grandfather, when he came over, he was a longshoreman, and he was spit upon and paid less on the docks of New York when he worked there. And he saw Columbus Day as the one day of pride for him. And therefore, I think that's the kind of legacy that we should continue for Italian Americans.
All right, Andre Dimino from the Italian American One Voice Coalition. Thanks for being here with us today.
Thank you.
In 2018, the statue of Christopher Columbus in Manhattan was listed on both the state and national registers of historic places, which offers protections for the statue under preservation laws. Still, there's a petition going around to rename Columbus Circle in Manhattan and remove the statue there. New York's Governor Andrew Cuomo is insisting the statue stay right where it is in Columbus Circle, pointing to its importance in the Italian American community. New York City was once considered the epicenter of the virus in the U.S. Now, as the Big Apple enters phase 2 of reopening, almost half of the country is seeing spikes of coronavirus cases. 10 of those states are even breaking records. Darryl Forges has the latest on the pandemic.
The coronavirus pandemic continues to take its toll. States like Florida surpassing over 100,000 coronavirus cases.
We're nowhere near yet sort of a surge that would truly challenge our hospital capacity, but we can't wait until we get to those points.
Jackson Health, the state's largest public health system, is reporting a 75% increase in coronavirus patients in the past 2 weeks. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis says many coronavirus cases are between the ages of 18 and 35. Officials say it's due in part to the lack of social distancing and not wearing masks.
So a lot of young people feel like the fact that we opened up means that they can do whatever they want, and they have to stop it.
As the Sunshine State deals with an uphill battle, New York, once the epicenter of the pandemic, now entering phase 2 of their reopening, which includes outdoor dining, barbershops and hair salons, playgrounds, office and curbside retail stores. Health experts say we are still in the first wave of the pandemic. The biggest concern now is what will happen with a potential second COVID-19 wave and the flu season in the fall.
And that could really overwhelm our healthcare system very quickly, which is the reason why hospitals really need to be preparing for that surge right now.
Daryl Forgis, Currents News.
The White House is getting ready for a second wave of the virus.
I'm not saying it's going to happen, but of course you prepare.
White House Trade Advisor Peter Navarro says they're filling the stockpile in anticipation of a possible problem in the fall. He says they're working as hard as they can to be prepared in case there's another spread of the coronavirus when the weather starts to get cold again. Still to come on Currents News, a dad and daughter duo spreading smiles across their city. We'll check in with them. Also ahead, a virtual spiritual bouquet and a thank you for the thank you. We'll explain when we come back. A dad and his daughter in Kentucky are trying to get America to smile again. Michael Ray and his daughter Maddie have made it their mission to spread happiness, going around Louisville to surprise strangers with random acts of kindness. Michael started the project because of his daughter Maddie, who has Down syndrome and is nonverbal. Her smile brightens his day, leaving him to wonder, what could it do for others?
We're going through some crazy times, whether it's a pandemic and all the stuff recently, with race relations, is that if you lead with love and you find love in your heart, you have the ability then to go around and smile at complete strangers.
Dad and daughter using a special smile to spread a message, no words necessary. And finally tonight, students across the Brooklyn Diocese have a message for Bishop Nicholas DiMarzio.
Hi, Bishop DiMarzio. Happy anniversary. Happy anniversary. Thank you and congratulations, Bishop DiMarzio.
This is a virtual bouquet or an online show of thanks and congratulations to the Bishop of Brooklyn. Bishop DiMarzio was ordained to the priesthood 50 years ago on May 30th, and students from around the diocese sent him their videos to celebrate the occasion. The bishop, in turn, has a special message to those who remembered his anniversary.
I'd like to take this opportunity to thank the school children of the diocese for the spiritual bouquet that they gave to me. Almost every school participated with the prayers for me and so many beautiful presentations with the pictures of the children especially were very beautiful. So that was a very nice thing. Also, this edition of the tablet that is coming out also is full of congratulations for my 50th anniversary as a priest, and I do accept those thanks from everybody who participated.
That Jubilee issue also honors other priests who have hit milestone anniversaries in a special giant pullout section. You could see it at thetablet.org. And these special pullouts are best appreciated by having the paper itself. Now more than ever, you need to subscribe to the tablet. You'll save up to 55%. And there's another big benefit to subscribing. The newspaper comes directly to your mailbox. Go to the website, thetablet.org/home55 or call 877-883-8356. And that is Currents News. Next week, we are going to be on hiatus ahead of the 4th of July holiday. Net TV is preparing an outstanding lineup of programs that will air while we're away. You can find the schedule at netny.tv. I'm Christine Persichetti. Thank you for joining us because we are putting your faith in the news. Hope to see you again next time.